we're here at my off-grid watering setup. So, you know, one of the issues is protecting the water resource so the cattle aren't in the lake all the time. And then also in the winter time, I don't want them out on the ice, and you got to have a continuous water supply in the winter time for them. So I took this old fuel tank, I cut it in half, and I dug it and put it in the ground about halfway. So the ground acts as an insulator for the winter time. And I have two pumps. There's two water outlets, two 12-volt DC pumps, which are nothing more than 800 gallon per hour Rule marine bilge pumps for small boats. They're little small 3-amp pumps. And took this 3/4 inch poly pipe, underground poly pipe, dug it in the ground and put it out. It comes out of the lake shore underwater.
I can see, yeah, you've got a little steady stream here because of course
Yeah,
it
now what
overflows.
I did is to keep water flow to help minimize ice formation in the winter.
Yeah.
Which when it does get cold, I am out here in the morning breaking ice, but I took 3 holes, drilled in the tank at 3 different levels. So after the tanks fill up and overflow, water starts slowly pouring out. It keeps water moving for maybe another half hour or so. Helps keep water moving and minimize ice formation.
So what do we got over here? This is how it all works.
This is the power station. So when you're way off grid where it's going to be too expensive to bring in electricity, I set up solar panels. There's two 250 watt panels. And
So there's one there and one there.
yeah, and there I've got 3 12-volt deep cycle batteries right here.
One here in this cooler, right?
Yeah, coolers are a really good way to store your batteries.
Now why is
Kind of
that?
protects them from the weather, but excessive heat and excessive cold.
Okay, temperature extremes.
Yeah.
And you've got
And-
2 more over here.
Yeah.
I imagine it protects it from some critters. I know you used to get frogs in
You
your...
get frogs and snakes in there occasionally.
Yeah,
but, you
they
know,
still get in, huh?
They don't seem to mess with the. They're not very good electricians. They don't mess with the batteries.
Good.
Here's a charge controller. Now, a charge controller regulates that your batteries don't get overcharged.
Right.
Without the charge controller, you'd fry your batteries, especially on a
okay.
sunny day.
Now, because the solar panels taking a lot of energy, right? And they can't overcharge your battery.
Oh yeah, they smoke these batteries.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And even in the winter, if you get a sunny day, you get a lot of sun reflection off the ice and snow.
All
And you
right.
can get some pretty good charges in the winter, just for a short period of time.
Interesting. Never thought of that. So what do you got down here?
Now, that's actually what turns on the timer, because we turned on that pump. That pump is running now, but it runs for 10 to 20 minutes a time, depending on the time of day.
Now, why is it on a timer going on and off?
Because you only have, with the solar panel, I have limited amount of power. So I can't keep the pumps running all day, 24/7.
And they just don't drink that much, right?
Well, no, this far exceeds what the cattle will drink.
Yeah.
So
You're not running out of water.
These 12-volt timers, they're programmable. So there's 2 timers for 2 pumps, because you want to have a backup pump. So if you're not here, one of the pumps burns out, especially in the winter time, they might go out and they'll be under the ice. And you got to go out there and chip through a foot of ice to get to the pump. And it might be so cold you're out here and your hands are numb. You're trying to rewire stuff. It's never any fun. So you want a backup pump. You want both pumps, and in this case, both of these pumps do pump. They turn on and off different times of day, and that helps eliminate, overusing these pumps. I'm told they have a pretty short duty cycle.
I guess it saves battery energy too.
Well, not really, because both of them are running
Oh,
at
okay.
different times of day. Just saves pump usage because they're short life pumps. These are cheap pumps.
You can burn them out.
They're $50 pumps.
Oh,
They might last a year and a half, or they might go out in 3 or 6 months. You don't know. You might have one last a couple of years.
So your constraints here are the durability of your pumps, not your energy availability.
Right.
Oh,
The reason
okay.
why these are such good pumps, though, however, is because they're very cheap. They're made to be submerged in water. They use low amperage, which is really important when you're in an off-grid system. You don't need a solenoid switch or anything to wire to kick them on because they don't draw a lot of current. And they don't have check valves in them, which means when this pump, when the timer shuts that pump off, the water by gravity flows back down through that pipe back into the lake. So I don't have to have any valves or water faucets, therefore my pipes don't freeze, okay?
Because of continuous flow, or because they're buried deep enough not to?
They're not necessarily buried that deep.
Okay.
They're buried though on a gradient so that they run, when they shut off, they run right
They
back down to the
drain,
lake.
so they're not. They have no water in them. So can you show me again where the actual pump is, or is it underwater?
Yeah, well, the actual pump's down here.
We've been talking about the pump, and I just don't know where it is.
You come down, if you look, you can see the poly pipe coming out of the ground,
Yep.
coming out of the bank.
Let's see if I can get down there. Slide down. Whew. Okay. Okay. Here I am.
Now you see one.
Where's the pump?
Well,
I see wires.
They're out there about, you see where they're out there about 6 feet.
Yeah.
And they're down. What I did is I brought the backhoe out here and dug a trench down about 3 or 4 feet. And I put a screen around them. You take screening, like just old window screening with a zip tie, put around the pump to keep them from getting clogged up with mud and debris. And they come out of the bank. And I just found the best wiring now. What I do, I just buy an extension cord and wire it. I used to shrink wrap the connections and all that, but you're not gonna make them waterproof. Now I just strip the ends, twist them together, electrical tape. You don't need any special taping or anything. Doesn't seem to affect the current or anything. Here, this pipe, I gotta get out here before winter, get a shovel and dig this pipe back down deeper. It's not coming out of the bank, I don't think, deep enough.
It's not coming out of the bank deep enough, so
Yeah,
that
see how the other
is
one
coming
comes
from
right
your
out
trough.
deep? Yeah, because you're gonna have ice forming here in the winter.
Of course you are.
I was out here messing with it. I must have pulled it up out of the ground a little bit when I was putting the new pump on it. So, you know, you just have to do some maintenance. But you can see there's 2 pumps here. It's a cheap setup to put up. You know, there's not. I don't think there's enough usage on these off-grid water systems. Enough people talk about them.
Well, you told me you're the only guy doing this. Did you come up with it? Did you get an idea from somebody? And how long have you had it?
Don Neville up in Clare, he told me he was using these 12-volt marine pumps hooked to a battery, and he was using timers. And so I set up a system to keep recharging the batteries off-grid with a solar panel. Because I'm too far out where I can't, you know, you can see here it's inaccessible. You can't drive a truck up to this.
I'm wondering how you got your backhoe down here.
It was a challenge. Luckily the backhoe is pretty good. I brought Dennis's backhoe over here, and I spent about 2 days here. I built this peninsula out a little bit. You can see I'm going to have some issues with some water erosion here. You know,
Yeah, this is very loose soil, so it can move.
It can move, yeah. So it's possible I may need to refasten my solar panels a little bit different.
Looks like you might have had a third solar panel over there.
I did, and it blew off. I didn't have it strapped down good.
Oh, you might want to go back and buy those straps from that woman.
And it was a really cheap solar panel. Well, it was a solar panel like these, but it had been hit by a golf ball. I'm not really sure how much wattage it was really putting out.
Huh.
So it is possible before winter I may go ahead and hook up, get that third solar panel hooked back up.
Yeah, because well, I don't know. I guess just because it's winter, it doesn't mean you don't have less sun, but the sun's lower in the sky. So that
Well, you do
might
have less
affect.
sun. You go down in to about 2.5 solar hours in the middle of the winter here, in the heart of winter.
Well, what's a solar hour? Is that when the sun's at an optimum level that gives you optimum energy input or what?
No, well, yeah. They calculate based on, there's a chart you can look at, you can find it on the internet, and it says that based on your latitude and your part of the country with your cloud cover, average cloud cover, that if you have a panel that say it's a 100-watt panel, they say you'll get, and then you have 2.5 solar hours average in below, like December 22nd, that you'll get about 250 watts of power a day. That's what they mean by that. So solar hour, I guess, would be how many hours of the day you could get your maximum wattage of your panel.
But you're still getting energy input when the sun's up.
Yeah,
Just
but
not a lot.
Instead of being 250 watts, it might be, 30 watts or 3 amps of power or something. So this is a new mother. She just had a calf last week. Kind of a late born calf. Most of my calves are born in
When are they born?
June.
June?
Yeah,
She had her baby in August, obviously.
yeah, end of August.
So you're not, well, I guess that was nature taking its course. Some cattle breeders very heavily, very closely manage that, but it looks like you're letting nature take its course.
Well, I try to get them all bred at the same time, and she was out here for whatever reason. She didn't breed back as soon as the others. I had 2 of them breed back late in the year like this.
Well, I know you said you moved. You found your calving season be more ideal in June than in, say, February when a lot of calves were hitting the ground, right?
Yeah, I used to calve, late winter, early spring, and I
That's
found
no
it was
fun.
a lot more stress on the cows.
Cold.
It's cold. I have very little issues here. At this farm, I had 18 calves born this year, and all unassisted. I didn't witness one bird.
That's awesome.
So I had good luck here.
I mean, they should be able to do it on their own. What is the
I think
ranchers and farmers generally need to do? Give some assistance.
Maybe 5% of your cows or something. Yeah. Difficulties, 5 to 10% can be difficult birds. And
Well, your cows can take care of themselves, can't they?
Well, they can. I mean, I'm not saying I don't ever have a calving problem. I did at another farm this year. I had some problems, and don't know why. Lost a couple calves, so it does happen. If you're monitoring them more closely, then maybe you can help them out more. But I think my percentages are right there with the average cattle producer.
So, looks like some of your cattle are pretty independent. Like they're herd animals, but she obviously doesn't feel like she needs to be with a herd.
Yeah, I mean the herd's only several hundred yards up that slope, but some of these older cows are more confident and they'll go off and get graze on their own or get water. In general, you will see the whole herd come here
Usually
together to drink. But right now it's so dry here. There's a lot of times on this farm there's other surface water sources they have access to.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Where else besides well, they don't have access to the pond, do they?
No, but there'll be some wet spots along the other side of the fence along the lake. There's a spring that is intermittent that's way up on that hill. That's dried up right now. Some of that stuff later this fall, early winter, will probably get wet again.
Oh, okay. Do they eat snow?
Snow, rain, yeah.
So what other aspects of your grazing regime are you going to highlight?
Well, we haven't been up there yet, but I'm gonna talk about my perennial pasture, my fescue, orchard grass, clover, alfalfa pasture. It's about 20 acres of it up on that slope. So I'm gonna talk about that. This would be more of an unconventional grazing landscape, but I'll actually show up there a more conventional planted, reclaimed pasture.
Well, 2 things I learned today regarding unconventional forage is you said the cows love Phragmites. They will eat, well, not that they love it, but they do eat it. And they also enjoy the poplar leaf. So you got leaf grazing and frag grazing.
Yeah, there's a couple other things too. the cattle adapt to the pasture they're in. So I've got a couple other farms where I graze that have more high value grazing crops or traditional nice grasses and legumes to graze. Where here, it's more of a barren, less dense landscape vegetation, and it's more diverse. And they will eat a lot of what we consider weeds here. I see them grazing on some common weeds like knapweed and sweet clover. They do browse this autumn olive. If you look at this autumn olive bushes, which is a real common shrub now in this part of the state and a lot of southern Michigan, it came in maybe about 20-30 years ago, started to overtake. It's a Asian shrub, and they're grazing that. If you look at those bushes, they're browsed down.
These close to us, I
Yeah,
do
you
see
see
a
they're-
line of quite sizable bushes there.
Yeah, and then right even there, along there where that
Those
beach
little ones?
sand is, that's all bushes they've grazed right down.
How big were those before they started grazing it?
They probably didn't allow them to get big. They don't go up to a really big, tall, like bush like that. And
That's
graze
quite
it
big.
down. It's just they will generally keep smaller bushes small.
That's interesting. Kind of like deer. Deer do that with a lot of shrubs. much
Yeah,
to
we call
people's
that
dismay.
browsing as opposed to grazing. So deer,
All right.
goats do it a lot.
Ah,
Deer don't-
browsing.
yeah.
Browsing versus grazing. I hadn't actually ever thought about the difference.
Yeah.
So, how do you decide which cattle end up in the different environments since they're so different? So you're not, to me that doesn't say quality control. You've got, these cows grazing this environment, and then you've got other cattle maybe eat more grass, which is idyllic, right?
Well, it depends on their nutritional requirements. Brood cows should utilize a low quality forage in a landscape that's unusable for any other use. Top agricultural tillable ground is far too expensive to put beef cattle on. Okay? 'Cause
You mean because at top agricultural, what did you call it? Tillage?
yeah,
Top
tillable
agriculture.
ground,
Now,
stuff
would
that
would that be considered agricultural land to grow food for food animals or food for people?
well, both, either or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, ground that you can put a plow in, has good topsoil, and it's unnecessary to put your cattle on ground like that. They'll just get too fat. It's a waste.
Oh, okay.
So
Because I have my follow-up question to your explanation of putting brood cows on this low-quality forage land. I thought, well, that's counterintuitive. Wouldn't you want them on the best forage you could find for them? Because they're mama cows feeding
Well,
their babies.
if you don't have to pay big money for it, but if you have to pay current land use rent for it, then no.
Your cattle look like they're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
They
so
look like they're in good shape, and your
can
babies
rent.
look lovely.
this ground cheaper is rentable cheaper, and the cattle make you can see they're maintaining their condition.
Yeah.
And I also find that this landscape has better thermal cover for them, both in the summer and in winter, because of the vegetation and the topography. Insect prevalence seems to be lower here.
Really? Wonder why
Yeah,
that
seems to
is.
be much better in this landscape than in a more upland, flatland, open landscape. They do use vegetation to get away from insects. They go into dark, shaded areas in the summer where there's breeze, and away from tall grass, they have less flies than my cattle at other locations.
All right. I remember when you'd have like skins suspended between trees for them to brush themselves against.
Yeah, oilers
Mm,
with
mhm.
fabric on it. Yeah, and I stopped doing that. I don't do any type of fly control.
So your girls seem reasonably low maintenance.
Yeah, they don't get any fly control, or you can see there's some flies on her back, but that's well within acceptable.
Fly concentration.
Yeah,
fly. Yeah. Well, okay. So I see another one coming.
Yeah, so you can see now
Almost-
your question about the one coming over on their own, but generally they do come in a group.
I see there's a stream coming. So yeah, that's very interesting. It's all really
So
fascinating.
let's go take a look at another piece of pasture.